Hello, it's me, James, and have we got a video for you? Back in the day when I first started making videos with Zach, my main motivation right at the beginning was that I wanted to see more gameplay of the Shield Ring team that was around at the time. And it just didn't exist online, so we decided to make it for ourselves. And then, of course, the rest is history, as they say. And as time went by, partly inadvertently and partly sort of consciously, we created a sort of chronicle of the major meta teams through the ages of our existence. And I want to continue that tradition. And so this is the first of a new series of videos from DM United, tracking the big teams in the meta and doing a little bit of analysis. And we're going to talk about the how the teams put together and what possible counters there are and how to deal with it. And the first one we're going to look at is one of Peter's teams, because he's had a bit of success in the Dice Fight XL not long ago. Peter, hello.
Hello.
Tell us about your team while I sort out my fingers.
So yeah, it features my old friend Iceman, who I used to win the European Open last year. Back in the day, of course, it was pretty easy to trigger his ability because you need to do damage to him in the attack step, and so you had the Magic Missile Global at the time, but we lost that in rotation. So I tried some new options like Thrown Brick and the Wand Global. But, Wand hurts you, and Thrown Brick doesn't do enough usually. But now with the advent of the Infinity Gauntlet set, we got a new toy for Iceman, namely the super rare Turk Barrett. There he is. And his second ability is what matters here. So while Turk Barrett is active when you spend a mask energy to use a global ability or field a character die, deal 1 damage to target character die. And so you can deal that damage to Iceman and do damage to your opponent. So what you need is mask globals. So the first one I put on there was Clayface. Very useful for generating extra energy, and it's a mask global, so that's perfect. Next one I put on there for defense is Static Field.
Yep.
So because you're bound to run into some God Catchers and such. And I really like the idea of weaponizing the Static Field global. That's just so much fun. And for ramp, I put Villainous Pact on there, which we just got back, so I was very happy about that.
It's not as pretty as the Loki one from Thor, though.
It is not, but what can you do? It still works. I still use the promo one from back in the day. That's my favorite version. And we got some new interesting things back, like the Collector Global, which used to be on Professor X. Pay a mask to feel the sidekick. So you got all these useful globals that you could use anyway, and now you can also use them to deal damage. And the final mask global I put on the team, because I needed something that you could repeat multiple times, it was the Avengers ID card, which you can just use a bunch of times to turn stuff into Avengers.
Handy source of masks as well.
And it's mask global, so that's nice. And it's also a cheap mask source.
Yep.
Yeah, because that I use it for that a lot. And the actual action is also pretty useful, because when you roll Iceman on his level 1 phase, he can only take 4 damage before he dies. But if you turn him into an Avenger and use the Avengers ID card, suddenly he has 6 defense. So
that is super cool. Yeah.
That also helped a lot. And then I figured, if I have Avengers ID card on there, I might as well put a pivot on there in the form of Drow Mercenary. Because when paired with the Avengers ID card, he becomes a force to be reckoned with as well.
Did you use that much? Because it is countered by your own static field, isn't it?
It is, and I did not use it at all.
Okay.
I didn't need to, but it's nice to have a pivot.
Yeah.
Even if you probably won't be using it. He would probably be the first card to go on the team. And then we got some new control toys. So I put Drax on the team, which is, it's super good. And then if, everything went to shit, I could, I was not supposed to use that word, but then who cares? Then I had Spider-Man for emergency removal.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a nice new toy.
So what was your turn three theory? What were your opening buys? What was your buy order and your aims for the beginning of the game?
Yeah, my aim was actually to go second, preferably. So I could buy Iceman turn one, and on turn two I could buy Turk Barrett, and then use Villainous Pact to prep. Use first use the Clayface, and then use Villainous Pact. So I would have Iceman, Turk, and three sidekicks going into the bag, and then on the turn three I would be rolling Iceman, Turk, and three sidekicks. That was the ideal plan. Didn't work out most of the time. I did go second a lot, but I managed to roll sidekicks I didn't need a lot of the times. So if that failed, I would either go for Drax to try to slow my opponent down, or for Avengers ID card to keep that in rotation. Buying Turk turn one also works if you're going first, but then you can't get Iceman and Villainous Pacts on turn two to get them all over. So you basically slowing yourself down a turn. But as long as you keep your bag management in order, you catch up later.
Yeah.
I think in my final game against Ben, I don't even know what I did, but I messed up my first turns. So I bought a Drax first and later something else. But in the end, I managed to fix my bag, and then I could just get back on track. And then on turn three, you're rolling Iceman and Turk Barrett and the three sidekicks. So preferably you would have Turk on one of his free to field spaces, and Iceman, and then you would pay one to field him, leaving you with two energy, which hopefully would be masks or question marks. And then you would go to your attack step, attack with Iceman, pull him back with static field global, and use Villainous Pact.
That's just great, isn't it? You're doing damage for stuff that you would be doing
Clayface
anyway.
And Villainous Pact preferably, and then that's already 6 damage.
I like it.
Yeah.
And so, how many you would hope to kill? If unopposed, without any horrible, without people playing stuff like Drax and Becky against you, how quickly would it kill? Turn 5, maybe.
Turn 5, yeah. If everything's, I think against Joe, I had like a perfect game, and then he just couldn't get his control set up in time, and he was already dead.
Excellent. Okay, but it doesn't always work out that well. That way, rather. Sometimes people do have the temerity to buy and field Drax. So we're going to look at some of the control that people might use against you, right? So
yeah.
Up first, what do we have? Let me see if I can get my finger right. Okay, is it this one? Oh no, I think I have to press this one. And maybe this one. Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
So first of all, Typhoid Mary, which was not in Dice Fight XL because she's hard to proxy, but obviously she will be all over the place shortly, I should think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's a tricky one. If they use that on Iceman or Turk, then your team doesn't do a lot anymore. So you will need to get rid of her. So you can either try to stop her from being fielded with Drax, or try to remove her with Spider-Man. But the team doesn't have a whole lot of removal. Or you could pivot to Avengers ID card, draw Mercenary. Or you could put Typhoid Mary on the team and field your own.
I can see who the replacement for Drac Mercenary might be. We'll come to that shortly. Who was the next one? Oh, yeah, Black Widow, a common enemy of Iceman.
Yeah, that is a real pain in the backside. She was already a pain in the backside for Iceman, but especially on this build, because she will prevent Turk's damage. So she doesn't just slow Iceman down, she stops it dead in its tracks.
Yes. So what do we do about her?
So you prevent her fielding with Drax, you take her out of the field with Spider-Man, or go for the other Typhoid Mary if it's on the team.
Yep. Okay. Next we have Becky, obviously. So
Oh, of course, always
Becky's a
Becky.
bit of a different issue.
Yeah, Becky is possibly going to remove your Iceman or your Turk or your control pieces. But I use the same thing I used with the Green Devil mask back in the day. You know, sometimes you just gotta hope that your stuff rolls back because you can't just play around it all the time. But probably at some point you will want to buy an extra Iceman and or Turk, so they will have more trouble getting rid of your stuff.
What about just pinging your Iceman to death before she comes through?
Is also an option.
But
then your Turk is probably still out.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, at least Iceman doesn't go to use, but you're going to take some massive overcrush damage potentially.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of the times I would have to hold back at least the mask for static field.
I suppose it depends what else they might have. Yeah, of course you've
got it's Becky Lynch can go on so many things, so you never really know what the proper strategy is. But
okay, and did we have another one?
I think Drax as well.
Oh, there you go. Okay, Drax.
Yeah. In my first game against Rob, he got his Drax out before I got mine out, but then he Draxed my Drax. So it wasn't that much of an issue because I could still go for my win con.
Right. There's enough space on your team that you can have enough control, 3 pieces of control to deal with what most other teams would have and still carry off your win con maybe.
Yeah, exactly. There's enough space to put plenty of countermeasures on there.
This is not the Turk that has infiltrate, is it?
He does.
He does. What about a force attack then? What about Scott Hall with his bolt force attack? With that?
Well, but you're bringing the static field.
Of course, that is true, but I don't know. That could makes them keep masks, which are less useful for them, maybe.
That is true.
Okay, and there were a couple of other things we wanted to talk about quickly. What would you do in the event of a mirror match? That was my first question.
Yeah, I hadn't put that much thought into the mirror match. I wasn't really expecting anyone else to be crazy enough to play Iceman.
But going forward, that's a horrible phrase, but they might now.
Yeah, that is going to be tricky because double Clayface, then it gets really out of hand. So that's a problem. I go for the control pieces or try to go faster.
What about your own Black Widow, which is what you did to me?
Yeah. That would also be an option. It depends on the prevalence of Iceman, I suppose. Black Widow isn't that useful against other stuff.
No,
so much for Iceman these days. So it would just be for the mirror.
Yeah. So I suppose that brings us on. Sorry, Peter.
So I think I'd rather get a Typhoid Mary, which is just will stop anything.
And that was my last question, which is that I think we've pretty much established what you would do differently, which is
I would probably swap Drow Mercenary for a Typhoid Mary.
That would be super cool. I think that's the synergies there, the masks and the fact that you're doing damage to Iceman and therefore to your opponent for doing things that you would do anyway, like the collector, like fielding sidekicks to thin your bag or villainous pack to ramp or reset your bag. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, because back in the day you were just throwing bolts away,
and
all they would do is damage. But now you get double value out of your globals.
I feel like I want to play this team. Maybe we can play the mirror match and see what happens.
That would be interesting.
Okay, brilliant, Peter. Thank you very much indeed for talking us through that. I hope everyone at home found that useful and informative, and we'll bring you another meta team analysis soon. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.